We live in a world that is very quick to judge people. Successful or unsuccessful, rich or poor, good or bad, trusted or rejected. Sometimes one mistake is enough for people to decide who you are. Matthew knew that feeling. 2,000 years ago, he sat behind a tax table in Capernaum. People knew exactly what he was, a tax collector. And for many people, that was enough. They didn't need to know his story. They didn't need to know what was in his heart. They had already decided who Matthew was. But there was something they couldn't see. Behind the coins was a man with hopes, a man with fears, a man who had built a life around money, perhaps because money was one thing he could control. But there was a cost. He had money, he had a job, but he had lost his place among his own people. And then Jesus came, not with a speech, not with an accusation, just a look, and 2 words, "Follow me." Jesus didn't ask Matthew, "What have you achieved?" He didn't ask, "How many people respect you?" He didn't ask, "Can you erase your past?" He simply called him, and Matthew got up. Matthew didn't leave because his life was falling apart. He left when he had a successful position. He walked away from a table that gave him money because he had found something worth more: purpose. Matthew then did something unexpected. He invited Jesus home. And he invited people like himself, tax collectors, outcasts, people who were not welcomed at respectable tables. The religious leaders asked, "Why does Jesus eat with people like these?" But Jesus was interested in reaching people who had been pushed aside. "I have not come to call the righteous, but sinners." Jesus was not saying that sin did not matter. He was saying, your past does not make you unreachable. And this is where Matthew's story becomes uncomfortable. We still have tax booths. They just look different. Today, we measure people by their salary, job title, education, social status, mistakes, family background, and failures. We create a label and then treat the label as the person. Matthew reminds us, a person is always more than the label we give them. Why Matthew? Why choose the man everyone distrusted? Because Jesus was never limited by other people's opinions. Where others saw a tax collector, Jesus saw an apostle. Where others saw a sinner, Jesus saw someone who could change. Where others saw a past, Jesus saw a future. Matthew wasn't chosen because his past was perfect. He was chosen because Jesus was willing to give him a new beginning. Matthew understood money. He had counted it, collected it, probably thought about it every day. Money can buy comfort, can buy status, can open doors. But it cannot answer the most important questions. Why am I here? What am I living for? Matthew had money, but when Jesus called him, he discovered something money couldn't give him: meaning. There is something beautiful about Matthew's transformation. The man who once collected from people began giving to people. Not money, a message. He became associated with the gospel that bears his name. His gospel presents Jesus as the promised Messiah and King. But this King does not build his kingdom by force. He builds it through truth, mercy, forgiveness, and service. Matthew had spent his life collecting. Now he was called to give. What happened to Matthew afterward? Here, we need to be careful. The New Testament tells us very little about his later life. Ancient traditions tell different stories about where he preached and how he died. We cannot turn every tradition into historical fact. But we don't need to. Matthew's greatest story is already clear. A man was sitting at a table. Jesus called him, and he got up. Everything else came from that decision. Here, the story of Matthew is not merely remembered in books, it is preserved in a place of prayer. Beneath the magnificent Cathedral of Salerno, in its ancient crypt, lies a tomb traditionally associated with the relics of Saint Matthew the Apostle. According to the long-standing tradition of Salerno, Matthew's relics were brought to the city in 954, and in 1081, they were placed in the crypt of the cathedral. For centuries, pilgrims have come here to pray before the apostle who once left his tax collector's table to follow Christ. The man who walked the roads of Galilee with Jesus would eventually be remembered thousands of kilometers away in a city on the Italian coast. Matthew became the patron saint of Salerno, and even today, his memory remains at the heart of the city's faith. From a simple table in Capernaum to the crypt of a cathedral in Salerno, the story of Matthew traveled much farther than anyone could have imagined. And now Matthew's story becomes our story. Who have we already judged? Who have we decided is too far gone? Who have we reduced to a single mistake? And more importantly, what label have we allowed other people to put on us? Failure, rejected, not good enough, too late, too broken. Matthew's life tells us, Jesus can begin with you exactly where you are. He does not need your past to be perfect. He asks for your next step. Matthew once sat behind a table while people walked past him. They saw a tax collector. Jesus saw Matthew. Today, people may look at us and see our job, mistakes, failures, status, or past. But God sees more. Matthew did not become a different person because Jesus erased his past. He became different because he stopped allowing his past to control his future. The same invitation still stands. Follow me. Maybe the question is not whether you are good enough. Maybe the question is, are you willing to get up? Matthew's story began the moment he left the table. And sometimes your new life begins with the same simple decision. Get up.